Morena koutou. My name is Rose Day-Cleaver. I'm an independent commissioner appointed by Central Otago District Council to chair this hearing today. Welcome everyone. I'll hand over to the panel to introduce themselves.
Chrissy Peterson, Commissioner.
Chair Brown, Commissioner and Councillor for Cornwall.
The Minute Secretary.
Good morning, I'm Kim Banks. I'm a planner at SLR Consulting.
And you're the author.
Engaged by the council to process this consent.
And you're the author of the Section 42A report.
Yes.
Thank you. Great, thank you. And Ms. Elton, I was just going to ask you to introduce yourself, but I've just introduced you for you. Please introduce yourself and the role you've played in this hearing. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Of course, I'm Maddie Albertson. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, John Van Leeuwen, and I wrote the application, wrote the evidence, and I work as a planner for Patterson's.
And obviously there's no one else attending as part of your team today.
Just me.
Great, thank you. Okay, and I'm remembering to ask the Minute Secretary to read the correct part of the process.
Getting better at this. All statutory requirements under the Section 95 of the Resource Management Act have been complied with. Section 42A report prepared by the planning consultant has been circulated to address for service.
In terms of procedure, the panel will likely do a site visit after the hearing today, at some point later in the morning, depending on when we finish, or this afternoon. Are there any procedural matters that any group raise? Any party? And just to note that we are being recorded. Okay, we're ready to hand over to you. We're in your hands. We have pre-read your evidence. Please feel free to, it's not overly long, so feel free to read through that or highlight the most salient points that you'd like to emphasise, bring to our attention. And then following that, we will follow with questions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So this application is for a non-complying subdivision out on Alexandra Fruitlands Road. The applicant, Johnny Van Leeuwen, has got a previous resource consent approved for a 2-lot subdivision. And he really wanted to see if he could try for 3 lots as it fits his management of the land better. So we have made that application. With my assessment coming to the conclusion that the effects are less than minor, that it's consistent with the objectives and policies of the district plan, that there are no risks to the integrity of the district plan. I note in reading the Section 42A report from the processing planner, we are in mutual agreement upon the assessment of effects and the assessment against the objectives and policies. We have worked through a draft set of conditions related to the subdivision. And we're in mutual agreement upon those. My evidence did point out one minor error, but it's mainly formatting. I'm happy to answer any questions that the panel has about the application.
Thank you. It's a very succinct summary. Thank you very much. In terms of paragraph 18 of your evidence, and you've just verbally noted that you picked up a correction that you would have liked to have seen. Can you just explain that to me? And I'll just get the conditions up in front of me so I can understand exactly the correction that you see.
Absolutely.
So condition 8B2.
Yes. So the way the conditions are laid out, which is very standard for Central Otago resource consents, is pursuant to Section 224C. There's then a list of requirements for servicing to be addressed. When looking at, bear with me while I find the reference, BII. Please bear with me for a second. BII, 8 BII. Standard water connections must be installed to each of the proposed lots 1, 2, and 3. So I note that this condition contradicts the comments within the section 42A report, confirming that allotments 2 or 3 are proposed to remain unserviced for domestic water as they're productive allotments. And that is also confirmed when reviewing condition 9C, which proposes a consent notice to be imposed stating that the allotments will be unserviced. So I just think it's a little bit of a contradiction to have that requirement and then also impose a consent notice stating they're unserviced. So
Right, so that condition 8B2 and 9C are internally inconsistent. Is that what-
yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And right, so you're simply wanting to see the reference to lots 2 and 3 struck out of the first,
Absolutely from BII.
and there's no material change to
No,
the outcome.
no material change to the outcome. It's exactly as we proposed. It was what was discussed by the processing planner within the section 42 report, which was what led me to the conclusion that it was likely an error. If it wasn't, completely happy to discuss that.
Thank you. Just while we're on conditions, just in that in 8.1 under the heading quality, more of a draft and formatting query, so it's pretty minor, but I was curious, there's no bullet points or clauses. And I wondered, is that typical of a?
So I've seen the firefighting conditions specifically displayed different ways before. But the applicant is very flexible and welcome to any formatting that CODC requires for the conditions.
It's probably a question for the section 42A author,
Yeah.
just in terms of how clear that is for a consent holder or enforceability if there's no numbering or
Yeah, I do agree.
just like a whole lot of points strung together. Yes, that's probably a question we'll ask. Thanks. Okay, thank you. I'm going to check with the panel if they have any questions for you.
Can start.
I guess I'm just interested to know the background as to why they intend to gain ownership and use the land just in a different configuration, or I mean, obviously there's extra rates if you start splitting up into different properties, so there must be.
Absolutely. And I hope at the point of a site visit, when you visit, it will become quite plain. When you view the property, the area around the existing development and the surrounding environment is quite undulating and also very rocky. But what you will see is the house, the existing residential activity is really quite separate from the area that's used productively. And then the two areas that are used productively are also quite separate. You can see they lay in quite different areas from the house block. So the original subdivision as proposed or as consented in the 2023 consent, the house was actually contained on a much larger block. And the applicant seeks to essentially separate the residential activity from the productive use. He intends to retain them and continue to farm them. He uses it mainly for beef at the moment, but there may be other activities that are appropriate in the future. Given that the site is very rocky, however, it is not the most productive land. He's expressed to me that for his farming purposes, it would work better to be in two separate allotments, whether or not that's financially, which is not necessarily considerable under the RMA, but he believes it is better management to have them farm in two separate blocks rather than the farm and house in one block and the farm in another block.
Okay, this is in paragraph 46. Your sorry, on the 42A report. With to obviously won't have any adverse effect on the waterways. Just want you to expand a little bit on that for me, just with regards, are you talking about effect on the waterways as in the physical works or effect on the waterways as to transference of water, or explain a little bit more?
Absolutely. The Section 42A report was written by Kim Banks. So I can expand, I hope, on what she's saying, but I did not write that. The water race will continue to flow through the land as it is currently. It is protected by an existing easement. That easement is proposed to be retained on the new allotments. There will be no works or earthworks or any touching or changes to the race through this.
You? In relation to the domestic water supply, can you, I note that, and this is obviously comes from the 42A report, and there was going to be a condition in relation to that for potable water. Can you talk me through the potable water? You've got the final signed agreement, but it's not quite done.
I can absolutely talk you through that. The way that the domestic water is provided for all of these allotments is through a shared scheme, which everybody legally has to sign on to. However, if an allotment is sold within that scheme, they need to add new users to it. But what had happened is the neighbour who chaired the water committee sold their allotment to a new person and subsequently sold all their shares. So they needed a new legal structure to recognise the person who will be overseeing the water scheme. So they have a draft agreement that everybody was under the assumption was legally signed up until the processing of this. Since they've found out, they actually legally need to get together with a lawyer and representation to finalise and sign that. Unfortunately, some of the neighbours have been overseas during the processing of this consent, so they haven't been able to put together that legal agreement, but they are very much aware of it because it does not just impact the applicant, it affects all of the applicants on the scheme. There is no intention for there to be changes in the shares because the shares are available for who needs them and how much. There is capacity in the scheme. So it is purely just the formality of providing the finalised signed legal agreement that's been in front of a lawyer. And we're happy to do that before any title or 224C is granted. Thank you.
Stage that's me.
I have a question around national policy guidance. So I note that the application is a section on whether you didn't write the application. Yes. I'll just talk through the context here then. So the application states that there are a number of NPSs that are not relevant to the application. And then your opinion, you've accepted the objectives and policy assessment of Section 42A author. I'm interested in, I'm aware that the government released a package of amended or new national policy statement guidance here, or last year, and took effect this year in January, I believe. Is there anything within that suite of national guidance that is now relevant to this application that we need to consider?
Fantastic question. Thank you very much. I will say that I have not provided any updated assessment to the processing planner. However, from my knowledge as a planner, I do not believe any of that updated guidance would be relevant or nearly relevant to this. Yes.
Thank you. That's something we'll ask Human Speaks as well shortly. Well, thank you very much for your evidence and for answering our questions. It's been very helpful. Thank you. So that now means we'll turn to you, Ms. Bates. Now, you have tabled this morning a summary of your section 42A. Thank you for that. So we've not had the time to pre-read this, obviously. So if you could talk us through that, it would be very helpful, and then we will follow with questions.
This might go with the question, but
Okay, thank you.
Proposals for a 3-lot subdivision with lot 1 containing the existing dwelling and residential activity. Lot 2 and 3 as vacant rural lots. The lot 1 being the smaller lot is 3.69 hectares, so 10.4, and lot 3 10.16. As we've just discussed, the water supply is existing to the dwelling with 3,000 litres per day allocation from the Butchers Rise Water Company scheme. And I would recommend the condition that that signed agreement be provided prior to exact. The application also includes an agreement for the provision of irrigation water supply from the Last Chance Irrigation Company. And this agreement notes that the lot is entitled to supply irrigation water and provides for the subdivision of the lot and reallocation of the supply, the prior written consent of the company. The proposal requires non-conforming consent because it does not meet the minimum 8 hectare average lot requirements the district plan. It meets the minimum lot size requirements of 2 hectares. And the smaller lot previously consented by the previous consent, being lot 1, is increasing in size slightly. I started on the wrong page. Go back to the background. For the background, which we've so discussed already, the previous consent from 2023 was a 2-lot subdivision of the site, providing for lot 1 as an unsold service rural lot, and lot 2 containing the existing dwelling, dam and farm buildings. And at that time of the previous decision, all lots complied with the minimum lot area and average requirements. That subdivision consent remains current, but has not yet been given effective and will lapse on 17th of May 2028. Sorry, go back to the third page now. As was also approved under the previous 2023 consent, existing consent notice registered on the title is also sought to be cancelled as part of this application, as it contains outdated conditions which will be superseded by the current decision and conditions. Current proposal results in a shortfall to the averaging requirement, comprising 0.57 hectares or 5,700 square. Shortfall in land area is small in the context of the overall development and landscape. Consider this will not be discernible within the receiving environment. The lot sizes proposed remaining of a sufficient size to support rural activities on lot 2 and 3 and rural. The lot sizes remain consistent with the surrounding pattern of development. And as previously noted, the size of lot 1 is increased as compared to the previous decision, which is considered positive. So the engineers have reviewed the application and have indicated they have no concerns with lot 2 and 3 remaining productive and unserviced, and recommended a consent notice is included to advise any future landowner that lot 2 and 3 are not serviced. Council's engineers have also reviewed the access arrangement and noted shared right-of-way serves 7 properties and is required to be constructed to local access A standard. There's 5.5 metre formed width and 20 metre legal width. A new right-of-way is proposed over lot 1 to serve lots 2 and 3. Following review of draft conditions and discussion with the engineer, there's been an alternative design solution agreed for the right-of-way to enable a reduced width of 3.5 metres, which is, I understand, so that some of the existing landscaping along that internal right-of-way can be retained. And with the reduced width, there'll be the inclusion of passing bays at 100 metre intervals. This engineer has reviewed the request and confirmed it's acceptable in this instance. Summary, I have recommended that the application be granted subject to the recommended conditions. Any questions?
Thank you. So in relation to the lot 2 and 3 being unserviced, and we heard from Ms. Albertson this morning around the conditions of consent and her concern that there was some inconsistency between the drafting of the conditions. What's your response to that? Are you in agreement?
I agree, Robertson. I've just checked the engineering advice and it does refer to all lots, but I think that was based on the original review, which assumed that there was residential activities proposed on those lots. So
So you
I
think,
do agree that I might just, because it's in the engineering advice, I might just check that with the engineer.
thank you, that would be appreciated. So if you could please check with internal staff and then provide in writing summary of your view once you've spoken to them, that would be helpful, just so that we've got certainty on where that landed. That'd be great. Thank you. And you would have heard me talking about the formatting of 8.1. What's your view there? Is that a standard format or does it matter?
Further bullet points to that, it really just, so when the engineering advice comes through, there's that first quality one is just format is essentially the same what's in the engineering advice, but it's just a case of when the conditions get formatted into the priority works and prior to 224C that it becomes quite a lot of numbering. So
Right, so that they are conditions, they're not advice notes.
yes,
Yes, so if they're conditions, they'll need to have some form of,
yes, where as it's currently formatted, the just as a heading, it's just a number of paragraphs under that heading.
yes.
So forms part of that. Need to be up further, I think.
You don't, oh, okay. It reads to me that 8.1 quality is the heading. And then there are separate requirements under 8.1 in order to meet quality. Interpret that correctly?
B1. It's under that as part of that B1 condition. I could split it up further into.
I think it needs to be clearer. I think it needs to be clearer for the consent user. It may well be something that's come through from the engineering, from the internal engineering, but the planning response is to put it in a way that can be interpreted and therefore enforced. So yeah, I'd appreciate it if you could look at that, please. Thank you. And also, in terms of national direction, I noted in your section 42A that you address paragraph 84 to address the regional policy statements. You've not addressed the national policy statements. Is there a reason for that?
Council standard template is to matters that are relevant. So in this case, there isn't any national policy statements that are relevant to the application. The site is not identified as highly productive land and stated in the 42A report. Yes, HPL, not relevant to the application. It's been, national hazards that has improved since the writing of this report. That is also not relevant to the site. The site's not identified as being.
So that's the latest suite of amended or new, nothing relevant there for our consideration.
The NPS HPL has been amended, but that won't have any implication to the site because the site is LUC classification, and I think the changes that relate to thinking more about LUC 3.
For any future reports, even though the template might not have a heading, it's probably quite useful for future panels to have that information available in front of them. Thank you for that. I don't have any further questions.
Would you, no, I guess, with regards to the right of way, and the passing bays at 100-metre intervals, given that it is a rural piece of land, are you satisfied that those passing bays are going to be sufficient for big pieces of equipment that there was a possibility of multiple people on the road, which is, I accept, probably unlikely given its rural nature, but would that, you're happy with that it gives it sufficient safety and as opposed, so the passing bays as opposed to the width for the new proposal?
I suppose that is really primarily a technical question for the engineering. The engineer has reviewed it, that alternative proposal and confirmed he's happy with that. Mr. Woodson probably has a more detailed understanding of the site, but memory, there's quite a lot of, even though the right of way paper easement area is that it is, there is quite a lot of space surrounding that, which you can see on the scheme plan, and I'm sure there's ample opportunity for passing of larger vehicles. So reflecting the fact that there's currently no proposal for alternative land use on lot 2 and 3, that came in the future if residential activity was proposed on those lots, and those access arrangements could be reviewed again at that time as part of the future consent.
Okay, that's cool, and I'm sure that the site visit would. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That brings us to whether we can adjourn the hearing. So in terms of any information needs arising from today's hearing, Ms. Banks got a couple of things that I'd like you to look at. The first one being you've indicated verbally that you agree with Ms. Albertson that the condition is correcting, but you would like to check with internal engineering staff prior to confirming that position. So if you could please do that in writing, be appreciated. Just via email, it's fine in this instance. We won't need to do a post-hearing minute or anything like that. And as part of that, could you please check the condition formatting? And then if you confer with Ms. Albertson and submit a final condition set, that would be appreciated.
Yes.
And what's the time frame that you'll be able to do that?
Yeah, I'd say probably as soon as you want it. End of the day, end of the week.
Okay, yep, end of the day would be great. Thank you. Lovely, thank you. Is there anything further you'd like to add? Thank you. Thanks very much. It's been very helpful. Now, Ms. Albertson, in terms of a site visit, is there anything we need to know, be aware of around the site?
It should be absolutely fine. I will just touch base with the applicant once we leave the room.
Yes.
It is a working farm. He does have machinery around.
Yes.
But generally speaking, due to the layout, you shouldn't need to walk
No.
or go all of the way in to see the farm. It's quite visible from
Yes.
at least the residential dwelling. Yes.
So if you check with the landowner, and just through our hearings administrator,
Absolutely.
just confirm with us that it's okay that we're going to be there.
Sure.
Approximate time, it'll be after lunch sometime.
Yeah, yeah. Would it be appropriate for me to give you a call or text you, or would you receive an email while in here?
Yes, yeah, I check my emails.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, and so we just need to drive onto the property around the dwelling, and then we'll be able to see.
Absolutely.
We won't need to go any further. Okay.
Yeah, there's plenty of parking, and you'll see as well that there's multiple outbuildings that are proposed to be within that residential area, so plenty of room.
Yes. And so will that be Mr. Van Leeuwen at home?
I hope so. I will just confirm.
So when you talk to Mr. Van Leeuwen, just we're very happy to greet him and say hello. But we're unable to discuss the application
Absolutely.
with him, just so that he is clear on that. We're not being rude. We just can't really be in a position where we're having discussing the merits of the proposal with him. So just so that he's clear,
He is a very enthusiastic farmer, so I'll make sure.
And I mean, obviously, if there's anything, I mean, we don't want to go any further onto the property than we need to.
Yeah.
But if there is something he's concerned about in terms of health and safety, he's very welcome to highlight that for us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Be around 1:30.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably 1:30ish.
Fantastic. Not a problem.
Lovely. Well, thank you. Thank you all for your assistance today. It's been very helpful. Nice to meet you both. And the process from here is that we'll have our site visit. We'll receive the clarity we've requested from the banks. That at that point we'll determine whether we have sufficient information, and if so, we'll close the hearing.
Fantastic.
And then we will deliberate and then issue a decision in due course within 15 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Martina koutou. My name is Rosday Cleven. I'm an independent commissioner based in Ōtepoti, Dunedin, and I've been appointed by the Central Otago District Council to chair this hearing today. Welcome, and I'll ask the panel to introduce themselves.
Rosie Peterson, Commissioner and Councillor.
Sarah Brown, Commissioner and Councillor for Commonwealth.
Lucy Dick, Minute Secretary.
Okay, and
Oh, sorry, Rebecca Kennedy Perkins, the from SLR Consulting, working on behalf of Central Otago.
you've prepared the Section 42A report.
I have, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And
I'm Conrad Anderson. I'm planner for the applicant and I prepared the application.
before we commence, I'll have the minute secretary read her verb.
All statutory requirements under the Section 95 of the Resource Management Act have been complied with. Section 42A report prepared by the planning consultant has been circulated to address for service.
Thank you. Okay, in terms of procedural matters, we will be undertaking a site visit this afternoon around 1:30. Is there anything we need to know about visiting the site, Mr. Anderson?
No,
We can just complete on the street, just look in then.
Yep.
Great.
So as it's on the side.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any other procedural matters that you would like to raise? A comment that, just a note that we are being recorded today. We've got no declarations or conflicts to declare. We'll commence with the hearing from the applicant. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Sure.
We've read, all the materials have been read, can be taken as read. However, it's always handy for the panel to settle in with a summary of the key issues that you may want to run us through.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Well, more of an overview, I suppose. The site is a is 2 existing titles in the residential area of Cromwell. At the time the application was lodged, the plan change 19 matters to do with minimum site size was under appeal. So the old minimum site size was 250 square metres, and the plan change 19 subsequently changed the minimum site size to 400. So, as I say, it's 2 existing lots, which under the old minimum site size would have allowed for 4 lots, 4 dwellings, potentially with minor units as well. That's what plan change 19 results in. So the application was made before the appeals on plan change 19 were finalised, and we're seeking 6 lots with an average site size of about 270 square metres for residential development. Behind the site, there is more intensive residential development. And as part of the process, the application was notified to the surrounding neighbours, both owners and occupiers, because I think a few of them were rented. At the end of the notification process, there were no submissions received. And as a general comment, there's a lot of agreement between the application and the section 92 report. So ultimately, 6 residential sections of just under 270 square metres.
Thank you. I have some questions for you.
Sure.
So I'm just interested in making sure I properly understand the planning framework in terms of the operative, the former zoning in the PC19. So I'm looking at figure 2, the location of the subject site and the surrounding environment. Figure 2 of the planning report. So am I correct that the whole block, later PC19, was zoned residential resource area?
I believe so.
And that was the what was the zoning anticipated under the residential resource area?
The minimum site size?
Yes.
250 square metres.
Thank you.
So that was the old.
Yeah.
minimum
And
site size.
then the application was lodged after PC19.
It was lodged after PC19 was notified and submissions received, but there was an appeal on a couple of matters, including minimum site size. So it was lodged before the appeal.
Yeah. So the decision was released on PC19, and then there was an appeal lodged.
Correct.
And it was, okay, that's good. Just trying to step myself through that.
Yep.
Did the applicant have any involvement, out of curiosity, in PC19?
No.
And PC19 is low density residential, and the minimum allotment size
It's now 400.
400. And what about density, the LRZ S1? So the minimum allotment size comes under sub S1? So
Yes. Yeah.
and does LRZ S1 come into play too?
A residential unit and a minor.
Okay. And minor. Thank you. That's good. Right. That's paragraph 1.6 of your evidence. You've said that there's general agreement between yourself and Ms. Genevieve Perkins.
Yep.
But you have highlighted that there are some differences in the detail. And while I appreciate it may not alter the
Sure.
material recommendation, I am interested to understand what those details are.
I think and I'm happy to be corrected later. I think the difference is to do with the effects assessment.
Okay.
Whereas I conclude that the effects are less than minor, as opposed to being no more than minor.
And was that to do with a specific effect assessment, or was that the overall effect conclusion, or?
Well, speaking after reading the Section 42 report, the effect was to the neighbours, to the surrounding neighbours. Once again, happy to be corrected, and hence that.
And so the difference there, less than minor, no more than minor, so it's not a determinative.
No,
Matter
it was more
in
about
terms of-
notification.
Yeah, okay, notification, thank you. I want to make clear that I've understood what's proposed and what's reflected in the draft conditions. So I understand that it's purely subdivision.
Correct.
So there's no building platforms or anything identified at this point.
Correct.
So I note that the draft conditions, and this may be a question for Ms. Kennedy Perkins as well, the draft conditions appear to talk about serving building platforms in terms of the wastewater, and it may just be the phrasing, but I wanted to check. Is this consent just about the subdivision? And any requirements for subdivision? Or is there an expectation that any future residential building platform is covered or will be consented?
Just on the requirement or not for building platforms, to be honest, by the time you've got 270 square metre sites, plus the setbacks from the street,
Yes, there's no.
setback from the neighbours, obviously, your building platforms pretty much defined.
Yes, and so in this sort of context, there's no need for a building platform. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, correct.
And so it's not a requirement or part of this process? No.
I don't think it would serve any purpose.
Okay, right. So in relation to that condition.
To do with wastewater, you said?
Wastewater, 7E1,
Building platform.
serving the building platform. So when I first read it, I thought, oh, I wonder if it's just a stock phrase condition. Is building platform required in that condition? Is it relevant? And I'll ask Ms. Kennedy Perkins this as well, but do you have a view?
I don't think it's relevant.
Thank you. And is that the same as in terms of condition 5, where it talks about as-built drawings are to be lodged with council? What are those drawings relating to? Is that easements and anything resulting from subdivision?
Once again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd say that as-built all relate to services.
Services?
So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So that's relevant then.
Yes.
And in terms of, so the proposal is for a subdivision for 6 allotments. And then in the section 42A, there's reference to the potential for minor dwellings. So potentially 12 in theory. Yeah. How does the rule framework apply to those additional minor units? Are the minor units as of right under the or they require future consent, or how does that work?
I would assume, and I would have to check, I would assume that if the subdivision was completed, then the minor units would be allowed as of right.
I think you've detailed this in your report, haven't you? So we might get you to just take us through the specifics of that so that we are across those details. Thank you. Okay, thank you. That's all my questions for now. Any questions, panel?
Is the intention on the subdivision to develop that into properties? Is there any scheme plan at this stage for what might go on there?
Good question. It's fair to say that the owners aren't property developers. And no, there is. They have no drawings, no
So it's
concepts.
anticipated that there'll just be 6 lots for sale as bare land to build what you were within the.
I can't clarify that, and that's because I don't think the owners have a set plan of what they want to do.
I don't believe I've seen it anywhere, but please show me where it is if I've missed it. Is there anything other than I've seen that access to each site has been specified from the road, but is there any provision for off-street parking for each of those units, as well as we're talking about obviously with setbacks in the building platform, you're taking up quite a bit of the 270 squares already, but is there any provision there for that off-street parking as well for each dwelling?
There's no condition requiring that, but more than likely what will happen is that because of the setback from the road frontage, there'll be a driveway of 5 or 6 metres, which will allow one off-street park before you go into the garage.
So there'd be you anticipate that there'd be units with garages. So I guess that's where there's no conditions in there saying what needs to be built in there. Would there be an opportunity to include a condition there that said any future development did anticipate off-street parking or garaging?
Potentially. I imagine, as I say, there is no concept design for future buildings, but I imagine that they would include garaging, and because of the setback requirement, even if it was a single garage, you'd end up with a garage and an on-site park.
Yeah, just given the location, and that there'll be 6 driveway access ways along that. Obviously, that takes away the opportunity to park outside your own dwelling, essentially.
Yep.
So visitor parking and or resident parking with more than one vehicle, which is again a likelihood for family. It's fairly limited, and it's quite a busy intersection there with the recreation going over the road.
True. I suppose I imagine that there will be garaging and off-street parking, but I can't guarantee that. And I suppose I would be a little bit reluctant to offer that as a condition of consent without talking to the applicants.
For my comfort, I would like to work through whether there was an opportunity for that condition if they were going to be on sold as bare land to develop. And we've seen in similar areas of Cromwell development like that, and to a degree, with the Wirrenshire as an example, the houses have the covenants on them to at least stipulate certain things just for driveways for parking, for access for rest. But given that it is next to a pretty busy rec ground, I think one thing we need to consider is that there is ample parking for that on, because they are quite small sections, that we do allow for that, and a condition as such that would just ensure that was on sale, that was still part of that.
Yeah, so that might be something that we can talk to Ms. Kennedy Perkins about. I note that we do have an engineering.
Yep.
And they've assessed access.
And that's the access from the road. But if you look at the site itself, that barely gives you parking in front of each unit. So
yes, and we need to be sure what's within the scope of our consideration.
Yeah.
So perhaps that's a question you could put to Ms. Kennedy Perkins about the scope of what the matters that are relevant to our decision, and we can go from there.
Yeah, I just have a question in relation to, and obviously I know you read the section 42 a report writer, but in relation to that report at point 44, I was wondering if the applicant had, and this is where it refers to the subdivision layout as a mitigator, as mitigating factors for that. Has the applicant given, and I accept what you've said before, that they're at the moment it's relatively rudimentary, but have they given any further thought post the 42A report as to how that would be mitigated based on that section, the item 44? And yeah, it's just whether they've given any thought to that and you've had any discussions in relation to that. So it would be mitigated through the proposed subdivision layout.
So the idea of, for example, having right of ways and things like that, we did chat about that very briefly early on, but that was, to be honest, was dismissed quite early just because of how wide the sites are. And so, yeah, the direct access from the street with no right of ways was considered more straightforward. Which I suppose aligns with that comment there.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. I think that completes our panel questions. Thank you. Kennedy Perkins. Do you have a summary you wish to speak to, or would you like to highlight any particular matters from your section 42A report, or are you happy to go straight to questions?
I have a prepared summary, and I think I would be happy to just move through the questions that were raised just now.
Excellent. Thank you.
So in terms of the draft first raised with the draft conditions, talking about the servicing with the wastewater condition and reference to a building platform, that was an obviously an oversight of myself in including engineering recommended conditions where that's the standard wording.
Standard wording. Okay.
So I would be happy to recommend that reference to a building platform is removed.
Okay. Thank you.
Moving
And you'll check any.
I will double check
all
the
check all
remaining
the
conditions.
to see that that's consistent. Thank you.
Sorry. And then in terms of the as-built drawings, I also have the understanding that that is to do with services and no proposed development or reference to development. And then what was raised was the potential for minor units and how that would be controlled within the plan.
Yes.
Minor units would still be required to be in line with the relevant standards of the plan.
Yes.
Which are controlled with height and still setbacks from the road boundary.
Yeah.
And with I think what is referenced in my report is that the size of the lots do not provide well for the inclusion of minor units, and therefore it's unlikely that these would be included with any future development on the site.
Is that based on the assumption that the primary dwelling will be of this?
Yes.
Would occupy.
Yes.
So if someone, but it's theoretically possible that someone might want a smaller primary dwelling, and then could squeeze a. Yeah.
I think, in terms of any development on the site is able to be permitted in terms of the standards of the plan as your primary dwelling, but then there is an opportunity for two smaller dwellings to be included on the site.
Two smaller.
Well, a primary dwelling and then a smaller primary dwelling and then a minor unit.
Oh, right, so, okay,
just as you were describing.
yes, yeah, gotcha, yeah. And then, in any case, if they are not able to meet the standards of the plan, they'll have to go through a consenting process.
Yes, yeah. And therefore any further effects of that would have to be
Thank you.
assessed. I was meant to have a quick look at the density rule as well, because that was raised. So
Yes,
and then,
yes.
but I believe, sorry, if I just give me one moment to. I believe the density rule is just one residential. I should find it before I state, but I believe it's just one residential activity per site or one residential activity per 400 square meters. And therefore there wouldn't be any concerns in terms of density, but I don't have it in to me.
Okay.
But I can have a look at that and then
Yeah.
get back to you on that matter.
Yeah.
And then in terms of access, I do agree that there would be concerns with off-street car parking, considering the additional vehicle crossings that are proposed, but it is noted that the site itself has 3 existing vehicle crossings, 2 of which are off, one off Alpha and one off Orient. No, sorry, that's incorrect. One off,
Salter.
yeah, sorry. One is off that side, and I suppose, and there is the potential for one to be located off,
Orient Street.
or yeah, sorry, I've got lots of street names going on for the site. And therefore there would be only 2 additional, potentially 2 additional along that street front. However, the plan does also require for each residential activity to have 1 off-street car park as a matter of a permitted activity, and therefore not providing for that 1 off-street car park would trigger consent for the activity.
So that's for any future residential activity, not required as part of subdivision process today.
No.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so therefore any effects of not providing for an off-street car park would be considered in any future development if it was not to meet those standards of the plan. And then I think what was raised by Commissioner Patterson with regards to that paragraph 44 in my report. When I was speaking to the mitigating factors of the subdivisional design, it was speaking to the fact that this subdivision is in a somewhat fortunate location in terms of the extensive street frontage that's provided to each of the proposed lots. And therefore there are no leggings or shared access ways proposed. And so by nature of how the site is oriented, each street will have its own off-street car park, and therefore there is no space that's needed, area of the lots that's needed to be provided just for access purposes or parking purposes or shared space. And therefore it will present itself as more of a subdivisional design that's in line with the characters of the zone, just by nature of the fact that it's kind of sharing that end location of the streets. And in terms of it doesn't have the perspective of infill housing because it's not providing for 2 lots, one in front of the other. And that's sort of what I was referencing in terms of the mitigating factors of the subdivisional design within that paragraph there. It's also noted that in that paragraph, I've included that near to the end of the paragraph in parentheses, it says with detached housing secured by condition of consent. That was actually discussed with Conrad, Mr. Anderson and myself, and we have not included the detached housing as a condition of consent. It was something that was discussed by Mr. Vincent, who wrote the Section 95 report. However, when I was assessing the potential bulk and location effects of the application, it's of my opinion that requiring detached housing has the potential to detract from the mitigating factors of the potential for a non-detached house in terms of the bulk and location effects provided by that. And in considering that any detached dwelling can be developed on the site in line with the standards, given the dimensions of the plan, that seemed to go beyond what was required for the situation. Any further questions regarding?
Thank you. That was a very helpful approach to respond to the questions that we had been asking. So, yeah, good. Thank you. So I do have some questions for you. Right, on figure 3 of your section 42A, figure showing properties which have provided written approval to the application. I wasn't clear which properties or who are the owners and occupiers of those properties. I hadn't seen who those written approvals are.
Oh, pardon me, that's obviously an oversight that I haven't included in the section.
Notified some of this, the owners.
There's a list of, normally in section 42A, we'd have a comment on who's provided written approval.
Oh, no, sorry, there were no written approvals provided to the application.
Oh, so that figure is the caption incorrect then?
It is, I apologise.
What should the caption read?
Those that were notified through the limited notification
Thank
process. Apologies.
No, that's fine. I was getting slightly confused because I couldn't find any written approvals anywhere. So that's limited notified parties.
Yes.
And no submissions were received. Great, thank you. So I had a question written down at paragraph 42. So that reads, the proposal would more likely than not result in 6 standalone dwellings. And I wondered, and you've probably talked a little bit to that in response to our questions, but when you say more likely than not, is that relating to the 6 standalone dwellings?
It is.
So the subdivision will result in 6 lots. So presumably there will be at least 6 dwellings, 1 on each lot. And so is the more likely than not relating to the attached or minor residential dwellings? Just wasn't sure what you meant by that more likely than not phrase.
And rereading that is unclear. I apologise. That paragraph is intended to say that the proposal is very likely to result in 6 standalone dwellings. Then from there, the sites provide limited potential for detached or attached minor residential dwellings.
Great, thank you. Paragraph 43. A couple of sentences before paragraph 44. You've said the proposed layout also avoids the need for long driveways to provide access to rear lots, which take up space on the front lots and cause a potential hazard to land occupants. Can you explain what you mean by that and how that links into the assessment framework?
That is in relation to the effects that can result from a higher concentration of driveways along footpaths in terms of pedestrian access and just this safe and efficient use of the roading network.
Okay.
And in terms of the potential decrease in sight distances that can come in terms of driveways and reversing through out of driveways from rear properties where maneuvering standards don't always require enough room for users to exit the site in a front-facing direction.
Right. And is your opinion informed from technical input on that, or is that something?
No.
No, okay. So that's your planning interpretation of the assessment matter. And okay, thank you. At paragraph 44, I consider that the proposal would have an adverse effect on both existing and anticipated residential character. Do you speak to the degree of effect in relation to that specific effect area? We can make a conclusion on that, or
My conclusion on that would be that the proposal would have the potential to have a no more than minor effect on the residential character through the intensification of built form. However, as I spoke to before, because of the subdivisional design and the ability for any development on the site to be in line with the character of the low density zone, as well as the existing lots in proximity to the site, then that is mitigated. And therefore, I would not reach that conclusion. And it would be no more than minor. I think it is less than minor.
right, so overall less than minor,
Yes.
including accounting for mitigation.
Yes.
Thank you. So paragraph 59. Allotments are sized in such a way that they are able to provide compliant building platforms. So again, that just raised a query in my mind, what was being applied for. So to provide compliant, is that relevant statement there, or?
That is intended to talk to the ability of the lots to provide a
Future
future
ability.
dwelling. I realise, the inclusion of building platforms there speaks to potentially
Something that's a bit more certain.
something that's a bit
Yeah.
more certain, just
Okay.
stating that they are able to provide dwellings that would otherwise be
comply.
compliant with the
Yes.
standards.
Thank you. That has resolved my queries and on that matter now fully. Paragraph 80 in your objectives and policies. Under section 7 residential resource area, you've said there the proposal will not impact up on the residential resource area. Just checking that it's probably a typo there and it's not something I
Upon.
Yep.
Yeah,
will not impact on. Or
upon the residential.
will not
be
impact upon. Ah,
Just a sneaky space, I think.
oh,
that's
that's so clear. That's so obvious now that you say it. At the time, I just couldn't work that one out. Thank you.
Sorry.
Impact upon. Thank you.
Apologies for the non-numbered policy assessment, which I now see.
Which one? Sorry, which?
Oh, no, I apologise. I haven't numbered the paragraphs of the
Oh, that's
policy
okay.
assessment. Which
No,
makes
that's
it a bit
fine.
more difficult.
No problem. So under page 15 and third paragraph from the bottom. As concluded in the assessment of effects on persons, are you referring there to the section 95 report? Or your own assessment?
Sorry, one. I will be referring to my own.
Okay.
Try to read. No, I'll be referring to the assessment within the section 95 report.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And lastly, on paragraph 81, this paragraph, it appears to be that you're concluding the district plan objectives and policies assessment. However, it refers to the regional policy statements. And so I wondered if that was an error, and for clarity, was wanting to understand your conclusion on the district plan objectives and policies.
It is an error in terms of what, sorry, could you please repeat the question?
So see paragraph 81, it says overall the proposal will be consistent with the objectives and policies of the operation and proposed regional policy statements and the central district plan, including plan change 19. And then in paragraph 82, you're going on to assess the regional policy statements.
I have
So I just,
that paragraph in the wrong. It should be at the end above, after paragraph 82 and conclusion, as a conclusion for the
Thank you.
entirety of the
Thank you.
policy assessment.
Okay, thank you. So just so I'm clear, you are, your overall view is that the proposal meets the policies, the relevant policies under the Central District Plan and Plan Change 19.
Yes.
Thank you. Good, thank you. And are there any, you've not addressed national policy statements, I don't think. Are there any NPS matters that are relevant to our consideration, particularly given the amended yeses released in January?
I would say that the
NPS and NES, I think. NES.
Yeah. the NES sorry, the NES for contaminated soils is relevant, however, has been addressed within the status of the activity as not applying to the application. And then the National Environmental Standard for hazards in terms of the risk assessment for the site has not been assessed, which should have been spoken to at the end of this report within the 104 section. No, sorry, ethics and policy section.
Okay. Would you feel happy to just provide an updated assessment on national
would.
direction? Thank you. And so that would just confirm what's within the report, but within a clear statement about national direction and the policy and the statutory assessment rather than effects assessment.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just be clear to cover off any new or amended national direction so that we're clear on exactly what's relevant for us. Thank you. Thank you. And the other thing I have noted down for you was checking the condition suite in line with our discussion around the building platform.
I will do that.
So given there are no submitters, I think we can just handle that. If you just provide that in writing to the hearings administrator, the panel won't do a formal minute. If you're happy, if you're confident with what we've requested, then you can just provide that as soon as you are able. And if you need to confer with Mr. Anderson about the conditions, just do that as well.
I will do that. Thank you. I can do that tomorrow and then hand that to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Now that's the end of my questions. I'll just check with the panel.
No, I think you've covered everything.
There was, you've got one? Okay. Thank you.
There's a gravity main that goes through the northern boundary of what is at the moment section 1, 7 Orient Street. With the the location of that gravity main, have you got a depth of that main? Has anybody got? I'm just looking at the GIS map and I can't get a depth on that, but as that's a main line that services that block, I would imagine that would be reasonably deep. And with a section width of 13 metres, I'm wondering if it's been explored whether it's feasible to build a dwelling on there, without compromising the zone of influence on that.
The Three Waters unit, the council's Three Waters unit have assessed the application and have raised, there was previous discussion with Mr. Anderson and Mr. Vincent around from the original servicing proposal was altered with regards to the servicing for the proposal in line with commentary from Three Waters, and they've raised no further concerns in terms of development of that lot in light of any of the existing services.
Has that been considered though? So the angle of influence from a pipe that's buried, you have to be a certain distance from that pipe relative to its depth before you can put a foundation in. And I'm just looking at that and thinking 13.5 metre width. I'm not sure whether that is more than the 1.8 boundary that you'd be required as a standard building condition, or whether that would actually, whether it truly gives you the ability to build a dwelling of that size. Obviously, it's proposed to be just over 100 squares, would be 40% coverage. But whether that actually is feasible on that lot, which would be lot. Saying that, wouldn't it? So I don't see an easement or anything marked on there.
There were easements discussed in terms of ensuring that council has access to any existing infrastructure running through the site, which would be covered through the catch-all. Condition 6. Where easements must be provided, and there is for 6B, an easement document must be prepared to formalise council's right to access the existing wastewater main running through proposed lots 3 and 4. And then in terms of development, nothing was raised from Three Waters in terms of development within the boundary of that wastewater main. And so I don't have any in terms of the potential restrictions on the site. As from the commentary from that technical team, there's no concerns were raised. I believe it must be deep enough that wouldn't prevent any development of the site. Otherwise, I would believe that it would be raised in terms of a exclusion zone of construction within that site.
Yeah, that's really wrong. Yeah, I mean, an exclusion zone would be potentially up to half of that site, which I wonder whether you could actually build what is proposed on there. It would be really good to get a depth on that and that angle of influence on there to see what that restriction would be for the easement.
I think it would be, if it was something that was going to be required for the site, it would be something that was raised at that stage by Three Waters. And the fact that there was nothing raised, I take that as there being an exclusion zone from that technical input from that team.
Okay. Okay. In terms of, I just spotted another question I had to loop back to the conditions. Condition 3C, is that intended as an advice note or part of the condition? No, there's no C. I just labelled it as a potential C.
That's how that condition is normally
Right.
formatted, just as not as an advice note and just as a Yeah, I suppose it is in nature a note, which I can format it as to be a note.
Yeah,
That's just
I mean-
kind of the standard formatting of how that condition is.
It could, it's, to me, it's floating as neither a condition or an advice note, and I think it probably needs to be clearer.
Yeah.
If it's intended to be part of the condition, then it needs to be lettered as C. It might be something you want to check. And in terms of the question asked by my fellow commissioner around the easement and any exclusion zone, is that a matter you would feel comfortable just double checking with internal staff, just to cover that off in your response? That would be helpful. Thank you. I mean, given it has not been raised as a concern, the assumption is that it's not a concern.
Yeah.
However, I think for certainty, it would be good to cover that off. Thank you. And just in writing by email, if you can cover all those matters for us as a supplementary section 42 statement. Yeah. And then on receipt of that, Mr. Anderson, if you had anything to add, you're welcome to respond.
Sure.
In addition to the final condition suite as well. Well, anything further you would like to comment on?
No, there's no.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of staff? No? Back to you, Mr. Anderson. In terms of any reply, we've got a little bit of further, clarifying information coming through. You'll have an opportunity to see that, at which point you may wish to present a written reply, or are you happy to verbally reply today, or how would you like to run it?
No need for a formal reply. Just, I suppose, just seeing what comes through and hopefully just ticking that off.
Yep. Okay, so you'll send through some kind of official reply statement attending to that you're happy.
I'll be get the
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Certainly.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Well, we'll adjourn the hearing for a site visit this afternoon. We'll receive the additional information. Then we'll decide if we have sufficient information to arrive at a decision, at which point we will close the hearing, and then a decision will be issued within. Thank you very much for your time and your assistance. It's been very helpful.